Greetings everyone, welcome back to the Archangel 15 and my ongoing Theory of Everything presentation series. Please view the videos in sequential order for the best viewing results. There's 3 previous videos that came before this one. Each one will kind of build on the next topic and so forth. I have a lot of ground to cover here, so I'm going to move very fast and kind of expedite the presentation along. I'm going to do a little bibliography here in the beginning. Kind of not really sure how much time I'm going to have at the end. I talked about the Ley Lines and Earth Energies book. It's a really good read. There's a lot of various material on this topic, but this is a pretty good go-to source if you're interested. I'll pretty much cover a lot of the material in that. I consider myself to be an expert on very few things, but I definitely feel that I'm more than competent enough to give you this presentation. I have done a lot of research on this over the years, and actually kind of my own investigative research as well. I have some very good resources that I'll share with you as well. This is kind of interesting. Stone building gotten into the petroelectricity, the energy found in certain types of stone. Limestone is one of them of significance. This one I'm going to use quite often. Amazing book. Gets into sacred geometry, geometry of sound, which is sematics, and other things as well. Not really too much in this presentation with this book, but in the future I'll be going back to that quite often. Signs, symbols, codes, source book. Good resource here. Kind of plays into the whole topic. Talked in the past about Eileen A. McCusick, Tuning the Human Biofield. She actually covers some stuff regarding what I'm getting into here as well. Secrets of the Unified Field. This topic most definitely gets into that. So the main ones here, a good one, is The Harmonic Conquest of Space by Bruce Cathy. The persona of Bruce Cathy, really interesting guy. He discovered, the whole thing I'm talking about here with ley lines, earth energies, that basically UFO sightings occur more, other things occur more, like cattle mutilation. I'm not going to get too much into the aliens aspect of it, but he actually went to each one of these places and drew lines all around the world and basically figured out the proportionality and the actual harmonics of the specific areas, like Stonehenge is an example. He covers some really good stuff and really good information in there. He has some other books out. He's since passed. He was an airplane pilot in New Zealand. In America and most other countries, if you're an airplane pilot and you start talking about UFOs, they'll take your flight license away from you because they'll say that you're crazy. New Zealand, I guess, is one of the exceptions to that, and he was, I guess, able to go out. Interesting story with him. He was, he was doing all this work. He also does the harmonics of nuclear bombs, and supposedly you can only detonate a nuclear bomb at certain times of the year when the sun is at a certain angle. And I'm going to try to do this presentation in one part. Hopefully I don't have to do it in 2. And so he was at a bar and I guess approached by the FBI or the CIA, and they attempted to get him to work for them. They wanted to pay him, I think, a couple $100,000 a year or something like that, and basically to shut him up, to not publish any more material. And he denied it, and the guy from the CIA told him, he said, you made the right decision. Basically kind of like a wink, he would have lost his freedom to do what he wanted to do had he have taken that position. Really big topic I'm into. I'm not going to get into this here, but it most definitely plays into the unified field, the UFOs, hollow earth theory. The Secret Diary of Admiral Richard Byrd talks about the UFOs with swastikas on them, that is a reoccurring theme, and other things. This is actually a pretty hard book to get. The first part of it's his actual diary pages, and after he went and had this experience, he came back, told the people at the army, and he had to sit down at the Pentagon, and they tried to convince him he was crazy, and he was a decorated veteran, and it didn't fly. So kind of interesting that actually made it to the light of day. So moving along here, like I said, please just know that this whole thing ties into a lot deeper stuff that I will cover later on. I'm going to try to stick to just the basics and not talk about stuff that's over people's heads, which is kind of hard to do. So we have an understanding of current from the previous presentations. understand there's also a corollary to harmony here. There's like a beautiful harmony that's supposed to exist in the balance of nature and just like a human affairs. And when humans come along and they start drilling oil and they start putting up cell phone towers and they start building developments and polluting the earth and other things as well, it destroys this harmony. And mainly creating fake wars is really like the one thing. There's another book, Nada Brahma, talks about this as well. Like there's harmony and sound. Supposedly if you take a whole bunch of pendulum clocks and put them in the same room, at some point they'll like harmonize the movement. Christian Huygens, I've talked about in the past, actually invented the pendulum clock in the 1600s. I'm going to eventually get into him. I don't really know what my next presentation is going to be. I'm going to try to cover this all pretty quick here. So understand the corollary, like I said, between the harmony and like the pulse of our geopolitical and current state of affairs. And how Israel plays into this whole thing. The reason that I'm bringing up Israel first here, I can tell you that the third temple in Israel is the end game. It's the most contested little piece of real estate in the entire world. A single parking spot at the temple, at the third temple, is going to be worth more than all of the New Jersey beachfront real estate combined. I know that sounds erroneous to think that, but it's true. Like, people would kill. I mean, like it's like there's a bigger concept behind the third temple and like who's going to be there, and it's obviously tried to be stolen and manipulated. Very, very deep suppression there. I have my personal beliefs and even my own personal role about it that I'm not going to go into right now. Let me just say that nothing will suffice but the third temple in Israel. Muslims have tried to, basically put up a front. They have a burial ground in front of the Temple Mount, and it's also a place where Muhammad ascended to heaven on a white horse without dying. So, you can understand to them, why it's very sacred as well, and why there's this bitterness between, the two religions. And also the Christians play into it as well. So the Jews, the Christians, and then you have other people like the Chinese and, the others that, aren't going to let it, they don't want it to happen, basically. It's going to be a big fight and probably the cause of the Third World War. The true test is there will be an earthquake when the Messiah basically breaks through the bricked up Golden Gates. There's like a place there where there's the Golden Gates. It's part of prophecy. It's like in the Bible, and it says that the Messiah will walk through this. The Muslims bricked it up, and like everybody pretty much has a general consensus that there's going to be an earthquake, and it's just going to shatter it, and the Messiah's going to walk right through. And in the city of David, or my mother actually, okay, so then there's like this other contested issue of where they're actually going to build it. The Western Wall still exists and is very sacred to the Jewish people. Someday I actually hope to go there and see all of Israel and all of Jerusalem and Jordan, Petra as well. So some people believe that they're going to build it where the pre-existing Second Temple Western Wall still exists. My mother, she personally believes that it will be built in the city of David, the closest spot to where there's running water. The running water is necessary for the cleansing of the daily sacrifice. The Jewish people are even in opposition amongst themselves regarding this, to whether they still need to have a daily sacrifice or not. It gets into a series of Jewish law called the Hibbalika. You look that up in your spare time. As with all my presentations, I encourage you to take notes. I better get moving here. I'm starting to get behind. So I live for this day that we build the third temple. There's also a prophecy of Gabriel that's sealed in the book of Daniel. And nobody really talks about this much. Gabriel it doesn't really have a whole lot of roles in the Bible. But I personally believe, just through divine intuition, like my personal, I'm not trying to like there's at the end of the Bible, it says if anybody takes or adds from this book that their name will be removed. It's not my intention here, so please don't take it that way. But I really believe that as a result of the Jewish people killing Jesus and constantly lusting after greed and money and attempting to steal the bloodline of divinity, that it's not going to be the Jewish people in entirety that are going to be that are going to consist of the 144,000 to make up the third temple, or the people that are going to inhabit the third temple. There's a lot of other unknowns, like, the tribulation, the rapture, other, things that, I guess it really comes down to your interpretation and, your understanding of how bad, is it going to get before, I guess, this happens. But like I said, I really believe that there's a group of Zionists that have attempted to steal the bloodlines of divinity. Probably the biggest mistake anybody could ever make is to try to steal, like, it's like stealing a Bible from somebody, like taking the word of God out, or like, you get the point. I really believe that there's the connection to the Epstein cool debacle, Trump's, and even the royal family that tie into this directly. Like those three people specifically amongst the United States military, global banking interests. Like you can connect the dots right on down the line. And understand this notion of the great transgression. There's like two, like, and it talks about this. I went to Liberty University, Christian college, and like the great transgression. Like it's one thing to sin and to not know that you sinned, or to like know that, to not know it's a sin, or to not know it's something wrong. It's another thing to sin and to actually know ahead of time that it is. There's big, like a real big difference, I guess, in the eyes of God. So moving along to my meat portion of this presentation. Let's start with some basic nomenclature. I don't like to continually keep using the term ley lines and earth energies. It's like kind of not really, I guess, pertinent to this whole thing. I'm going to show you some pictures here that I showed you a couple presentations ago. They're of great value to this. I don't have the sources of where I got them, but I'm not really that worried about it right now. So as far as the chakras go, there's several chakra points. There's more than just that are here, but you get the point. And like look at these scalar torsion waves. There's also more of those than are put there. There's spots where they cross. Sometime look up earth chakras, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So we go back to Maxwell's Treatise of Magnetism, and you can see, like I said, the Freemasons emblem, and this is like how basically magnetism, and I guess essentially electricity flows through the earth. And you can see the same thing right there. There's like the same exact symbol, or like same exact geometric shape. And you can see like there's more places where they cross, and more waves, torsion waves, I guess you could call them. And then there's this one where there's two major currents one's near Australia, near where Bruce Cathy was and saw the UFOs. Other one in Washington, D.C. area. There's certain spots where both currents intersect and cross each other. And I can just tell you that there is most definitely special energy on those places. So let's coin the term Lagrange points. This was, I guess, from France, and there's a very special energy in France. I'll get to that later. But there are orbital points of two or more gravitational forces that are basically where there's an equilibrium. And also they're known as libration points. It also gets into undulation and oscillation and rarefication. It's like it gets into this whole deeper understanding of quantum physics, where like energy, vibration, sound, and light are all like I guess contemporaries of the electromagnetic spectrum. Okay, so we understand Lagrange points. I like that term better. Let's just stay with that. And there's Telluric Energy. There's not really a proper definition for it, but you can kind of understand it. Like basically like an earth energy, Telluric Energy. Genus Loki, the spirit of place. I guess it's like more of the same thing, but more of like a spiritual aspect on it. Then you have Schumann resonance, which is the 7.83 hertz electromagnetic pulse rate of the Earth. I have since found out, after reading Eileen de McCusick's book, that 7.83 hertz is not consistent in all places of the Earth. Due to the curvature of the Earth, it changes. It's like not consistent. Just know that. And that's like one thing I think NASA actually agrees on, and me as well. I want to give a shout out to another dear friend of mine. I haven't talked to her in a while. I tried messaging her. Hopefully everything's okay. Her name is Alanka Harizi. She, like I said, I used to correspond with her and talk to her about many of my experiments and ongoing work. She had invented a Tesla watch that basically tunes your body to 7.83 hertz and blocks out electro pollution, or ELFs. This was actually on the Oprah Winfrey show, Oprah Winfrey's favorite things, and I've actually used her idea somewhat to kind of develop between her and another guy named Gabriel Cron. He has this he used to work for General Electric, and he discovered torsion tensor analysis, which is like these torsion waves that basically go across the earth. It's also like figure eight. I personally believe in it. Plus, copper is a trace mineral or element that used to be in other things. It's not in there anymore. I find that this helps me. Maybe it gets into the placebo effect. I'm not going to elaborate on that. That's not the heart of this presentation. Moving along, she also worked with the great Dr. Robert Becker from the Body Electric book, like my all-time favorite book. And somehow she has the publishing rights to some of Andrea Puharich's work. This is like amazing to me. Like these people, any one of them, would have been like very profound, and she knew them all. And I've only talked to her a couple times. I used to there's times where like everybody else would be out on a Friday night on a date, and I'd be emailing her back and forth. And it's a time in my life that I'll hold very dear to my heart. Just a lot of research I've done here on all this. Just picking up pieces, and putting I guess painting a bigger picture in your head of how it all comes together. So she also is the one that told me about Dr. Valerie Hunt, her experiments, the quantum, the great. And another thing about her is she's self-taught. She doesn't have all these degrees in physics or work for NASA or anything like that. She's like me. She's a self-taught person, and also told me about thousand monkey syndrome. If you've never heard of thousand monkey syndrome, kind of gets into collective consciousness. It's like a really, really interesting thing too. Like you take two monkeys, put on on an island, say 600, 700, 800 miles away, groups of monkeys. And like one will start doing one thing, and then the ones in a remote island will like copy off of them and start doing the other. She also is where I learned about the pyramids at Giza and the energies there. She's done her own research there with like scientific testing equipment that can actually prove these Lagrange points. And she told me that the pyramid at Giza is not just a tetrahedron that's inverted. There's that goes up. There's an inverted one that goes down. So it's essentially a diamond. And I asked her, what's the energy like there? Probably pretty amazing. And she said that it goes both ways. That like if you go there and you have a bad attitude or you have like a bad day, like it'll channel bad energy. If you go there and in an uplifting spirit, it'll channel positive energy. I find this very interesting. Also, in her correspondence, every time she would always say, "It's all in the field." So I'm going to kind of leave on that. I try to acknowledge people in sort of like a self-contained bibliography. I don't. One thing when I was in college, they were real big on plagiarism, and I've had many things stolen from me and my family, and that's why I'm so anal about that aspect of it. So let's discuss common themes. Okay, so water is the source of all life. So basically, I think Valerie Hunt, I said in one presentation, anywhere where there's motion in the environment, it'll basically increase the field of energy around us. So water, the source of all life. Understand the significance of running water versus stagnant water. Also, the age-old well and the concentric circles. You have a circle. There's something very, very special about about that. I remember when I was in college. I actually went to three different universities. It took me that many times to actually finish. Someday I'll tell more about my personal story if anybody cares and interested. The world's still here. So one teacher I had in my philosophy class he went to Harvard University. That's where he became a teacher. And I remember the beginning of the class started with the whole understanding of the circle, and it's all based around the sun and the eternal. It represents many, many things, wedding rings of, a circle as well. And so a good friend of mine from Khabarovsk, Russia, told me about a guy named Nikolai Leveshov. This guy is one of the most amazing figures that I've ever heard of. Unfortunately, they killed him. Like he probably could have been president of the whole world. I mean, this guy was a total divine mystic. Like if you think Nikola Tesla was cool, please look up Nikolai Levashov. They killed him and his wife, Svetlana. Amazing guy. He, like myself, he was into healing. He could actually like use his hands and create Lagrange points just with his hands, like special energy from the earth. He was into the whole like free energy generators. He could make cloud formations. I know that sounds crazy, but yes, people can really make cloud formations, and it gets into, like I said, a deeper understanding of the unified field. Understand that at these Lagrange points, energy, light, time, and gravity are perceived different in these areas. Subsequently, I postulate that you could almost age slower in some of them, and that's why, like, basically certain areas are more desirable to live in than others. And if you'll even in small towns, every town has special energy spots, and most of them you'll find are owned by the Freemasons. Like, this is like all what I'm talking about is very deeply coveted and hoarded by the Freemasons, and they'll give it down to their kids and so forth. Every once in a while you find one, they put them at public places. It's really intriguing, where they are and why they're there and the causes for them. So, like, okay, understand that there's mainly like 2 or 3 ways that these energy points exist. Some of them are prior to man-made. They're just like like I showed you, like they're just where natural magnetism spots occur. Other ones are, maybe like where there were hunting grounds. Another big one is burial grounds. Remember that, hunting grounds and burial grounds, like very deep into spiritual energy. Also, volcanoes. Where there's volcanoes, there's obviously geological activity that's underneath the surface, and also spots where there's tectonic activity, like in California, where there's plates that are moving. There's energy there. There's earth energy. I've heard stories about like the sounds. The book talks about sounds that are made right before an earthquake, and it's really crazy. Okay, I'm at 22 minutes now. I stop at about 30 minutes. Once this stops, I'm gonna stop at short of 30 minutes, and then I'm gonna have to do a continuation series here by the looks of it. So I could go into other things, which eventually I will, about UFO phenomenon, abductions, crop circles, cattle mutilations, but I'm gonna save that for a special series on aliens and alien bloodlines and go much deeper into that. That'll be a pretty cool one. Maybe that's what I'll do next. We'll see. Then, okay, we have energy channeled from man-made structures or points, like points of worship, or there's too many to list here, like cathedrals. Some that I like. Okay, another one, like libraries. Okay, universities, courthouses, the pyramids of Egypt, or even like arenas, like the Parthenon and like like the Acropolis. So you have the pyramids at Egypt and that whole area there. China has pyramids of its own. Please look those up. The Great Wall, like, I guess, like, if you're into Freemasonry and stuff, like, I mean, how could, like, in my opinion, the Great Wall of China is the most significant stone structure of all. I can't wait to go to China and see this. It's like total on my bucket list. I hope that I'm able to afford to do a helicopter tour of it to really take in the magnitude of it. But like I said, even just like courthouses are built on many of these areas. Little side quote that I have. This is another one of my quotes I'm throwing in there. You may think they're quirky, but I personally like them and find them of value. What came first? The crime, the punishment, the law, the judge, or the police? I guess, and you could add the courthouse. What came first? Think about it. It's kind of really deep into philosophy. Okay, so I couldn't get into this without mentioning the freestanding stones in Scotland and Ireland and part of Scandinavia. Like every book I've ever had on this Telluric Energy stuff, like totally gets deep into these freestanding stones. Supposedly nobody knows how old they are. Some believe that they were aliens that made them, but apparently in Scotland, which is like the home of the Scottish Rite Freemasons, like there's this amazing energy that exists around these freestanding stones, and they were probably thousands of years old. Not just Stonehenge, but others. Like I said, Bruce Cathy actually like did all this mathematical calculations and like can like correlate the harmonics of Stonehenge to like constellations in the sky and like all this crazy stuff. It was on a whole other level. Like his like I'm gonna be right up front with you off the bat. I'm pretty intelligent, as you can tell, and pretty adept in a wide array of subject matter. But the two weaknesses I have, just like Eileen, one that really hold me back is mathematics. I'm very, very deficient in mathematics. Like when it comes to like dollars and cents, I'm good, but like calculus and deep calculations, no. And then also chemistry, I could probably do a little bit better in chemistry as well. I'm gonna stop right here, and I'm gonna start another continuation of this part 4, and that way it'll kind of flow together a little more seamlessly.